We are on the record in the matter of Kenzie Wright, file number 24000097.
All right, we're on record for a fourth review and a permanency planning hearing. May I have the names of our participants, please?
Good morning, Your Honor. Nicole Underwood, lawyer guarding ad litem.
Stasia Thomas, counsel for the department.
Macy Moore, foster care worker with Catholic Charities.
Michael McFarland, representing mother.
Christina Lemley, mother of Kenzie.
Good morning, Your Honor. Ariel Berger here on behalf of father.
Mr. Wright, could you introduce yourself, please?
Matthew Wright, father.
Thank you so much. All right, Ms. Underwood, let's go to you first for your report whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was able to meet with the minor child at her placement before the 4th of July holiday. She's continuing to just grow and thrive where she is placed. She's walking everywhere. She's showing me her toys. She's making animal sounds when asked. She will point to colors and objects when reading her a book. She's very bright, growing and just continuing to thrive where she's at. She doesn't have a preference on placement since she is just a year old, but she's doing very well. She's familiar with her caretakers. They're able to provide her with all of her needs. But when I was there, the other placement, I believe Jason is he's the husband of Dawn, and the child saw him and just started waving her hands and screaming hi and bolted right to the barn because she wanted to go hang out with the pigs. So she's just really loving where she's at. She's, like I said, she's very loved there as well. And her needs continue to be met where she's placed. I would recommend that the court continue that placement as it is in her best interest and least restrictive, considering the circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. Testimony today, Ms. Thomas.
Yes, Sharon, I'll ask Ms. Moore to provide her report.
Ms. Moore, come on up to our witness stand.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
All right.
Just a reminder to try to avoid using the chat.
Okay, I will try my best.
Very good. Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Honor. Ms. Moore, you've provided a court report for today's hearing and included our several attachments. Are there any updates or modifications that need to be made to the main report or any of the attachments you've included into the packet?
The only update that I would have to add is that last Thursday, myself, my supervisor, Christina Lemley, and Dawn Fisher held a FTM to discuss permanency, and that went relatively well.
Okay. And is Ms. Fisher the relative caregiver?
Yes, she is.
Okay. Just want to make sure that's clear for the record. Thank you. During this review period, let's start with Ms. Lemley. How would you describe her compliance and benefit from her case service plan?
She has been complying. She has been doing what she's been needing to do, showing up to parenting times, doing things of that nature. The only concern that I have is with the Odyssey house. However, that was not her fault. That was an insurance problem that happened. She was discharged from the Odyssey program and then got into a different treatment. I'm not sure of the name. I'm sure she could inform us of that, and then got back into the Odyssey program. But I've been communicating with Odyssey House. I'm just waiting on a response back on her treatment throughout the month of June.
And parenting time, how is that going? I see she's coming to every parenting time. Are there any concerns during parenting time?
Nope, she's bringing the needed supplies, arriving on time, doing the visit, having KW go down for a nap.
Okay. And in your report, you were able to do a home visit where she's currently staying. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And other than providing for the child's, I guess, furniture needs, were there any concerns about the house?
There was no concerns about the house besides I was not allowed into the master bedroom because one of the person she lives with, one of her children were sleeping in that room and they didn't want to wake him up.
Okay. Miss Emily remains employed, correct?
Correct.
And are there any concerns about her sobriety at this time?
There is not, no.
What would be the risk of harm in increasing parenting time and to include any at her home?
The risk of harm, I guess what has kind of stopped that is we had requested to create a plan of how to get that done. It would obviously involve KW being in the car for a significant amount of time to get up there. And then if it was just a day visit, that's a significant amount in one day to be in the car. So we were discussing creating a plan for an overnight, but we had requested that Christina Lemley create the plan and kind of draw up a mock-up.
Okay. And has that been done or was that discussed at the family team meeting you guys had?
It has not been done, but it was reminded to be done at the FTM.
Okay. I believe that we are here on a permanency planning hearing. And you've made a timeout. Let me go back to Dad and his case service plan. How would you say Mr. Wright has done with his case service plan during this review period?
Non-compliant.
In your report, you've attached several screenshots of messages between the two of you. And it seems like there's some disagreement on how to achieve an in-person meeting or who's more responsible for that. Have you, since submitting this report, have you had any contact with him on how to work together to communicate better or go over his case service plan or the referrals?
No, the last time I had made contact with Matthew Wright is when I attempted 2 home visits to his residence.
The one drug screen that is attached in here was positive for several substances. Was that reviewed with him?
It was not reviewed with him.
And do you know if he's engaged in any type of substance abuse treatment?
He has not, as far as I'm aware.
Were you able to contact Miss Moore, Brene Moore, to determine whether or not he had reached out to her to start the service for reintroduction to the child?
There has not been any contact or a release sign.
There was also a referral in the packet that you've included for domestic violence counseling with John Bailey. Do you know if that's started at all?
Same thing, either no release or has not started, not able to inform me.
One of the things you've noted in your report are maybe conflicting positions between the parents. Mr. Wright has indicated or questioned whether him and Miss Lemley could plan together. And Miss Lemley, I guess, has not asked that same question. Do you have any updates on their relationship status or their intentions?
I do not have any direct updates. Miss Lemley reported that she dropped off dog food to Matthew Wright's house. I'm not sure when, a couple of weeks ago, but beyond that, I am not sure. I expressed my concerns of the relationship to Miss Lemley, but beyond that, I do not have much of an update.
Your report indicates that you would be asking the court to make a goal change for a concurrent goal of perhaps adoption or guardianship at this time. Can you explain why you would ask the court to make that request or why you would request that of the court at this time?
Yes, I would request that from the court at this time, just based on the stagnant that we've kind of hit. We have no transportation, we're not showing up or following up on medicals. We have employment, but the employment's not sufficient income to meet both her and her child's needs. The contact with Matthew Wright really concerns me. At my the contact I had with Matthew over the phone, he had stated that somewhere along the lines, Christina had said that she's just going to do the work and he can sit back and then they can get back together after the case. So that is my major concern.
To the best of your knowledge, is the caregiver willing to accept the responsibilities of a guardian, or are they more prone to wanting to provide permanence through adoption?
I believe they would be willing to do anything.
Okay. I think you touched on this a little bit in your report, but have the caregivers indicated whether parenting time or the child experiences any changes in behaviors or her status quo or her norm after parenting time?
Yes, they have reported that she is dysregulated from Thursday evenings until about Saturday mid-afternoon evening time, and that she's just very clingy and attached to the caregivers during that period of time.
And can you please remind me if there's been any parent education or aid, like the foster care supportive visitation, implemented in this case?
It has not been implemented. She was getting on a wait list. So it got very confusing mixing around counties. So she originally got on a wait list for, I can't recall which county, and then we moved it to Saginaw. I have to follow up on that because she has been on the wait list for a while now. So I would have to follow up and see where she's at on that list. So the wait list was done. She was on a wait list, but I need to follow up on it.
All right. And as relates to, I'm sorry, I just want to kind of go through the reasonable efforts here. As relates to the transportation assistance, are you still providing, is the agency still providing Miss Lumley with gas cards for parenting time?
Yes, we are typically providing them every other week. This last time though, it was 3-week gap between the last time.
Okay.
But typically it's bi-weekly.
As relates to the DNA testing, has there been any progress on that?
There has not. I actually brought the DNA testing kit with me to court today, but Mr. Wright did not attend in person.
Has either parent engaged in a psychological evaluation?
Yes, Christina Lumley did.
Okay. And has she complied with the recommendations from that evaluation?
Yes, she has.
Have you discussed budgeting with Miss Lumley?
We have slightly hit on it. She completed a financial income worksheet last week at the FTM, but creating a full budget has not been done, but I would be willing to do that.
Your report indicates that, and I believe that we've already discussed on the record, that there are other children, I believe that are, both of their parents are Miss Lumley and Mr. Wright, in a guardianship in another county. To the best of your knowledge, have either of the parents complied with the parent treatment plan or the parent visitation plan that would accompany a guardianship for the minor children?
As far as I'm aware, Matthew Wright has not complied at all. And then I believe Christina Lemley does infrequent phone contact, but beyond that, I am not aware of anything.
Okay. And at this point in time, has this child, subject to this case, had an opportunity to meet with and or establish a relationship with those other siblings?
Oh, absolutely. I think the two families meet up bi-weekly, if not weekly, if they're able to. They talk on the phone probably multiple times a week if I think about it. And then the two older children very much benefit from those visits, from what is reported to me.
Is there anything from the report that you'd like to highlight or anything from your knowledge of the case that you'd like the court to know?
There's not anything in my report, but something that I had thought of while you were questioning me was Christina had reported that she actually is obtaining a 1-bedroom apartment and she is hoping to obtain this within the next 2-ish weeks. So that is something that we will be waiting for as well.
And do you know if that will still be in the Saginaw area?
Yes, it would.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that update. Your Honor, with that, I have no further questions of Ms. Moore and move to admit the court report.
Objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Thank you. They are received. Questions for this witness, Ms. Berger?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Miss Macy, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. You had mentioned that you had 2 attempted home visits with Mr. Wright. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what happened at those visits? Were you not able to make contact?
The first time we arrived at the home, we made contact with who I presume to be the homeowner. They were inside of the house in the front. She had told me to jump the gate and go into the back and get him. On the gate, it had a no trespassing sign, so I was not going to do that. So we had left. I notified Mr. Wright of our departure. We were actually going to a different home visit a little farther away, so we were able to stop at his house again on the way back to the office per his request. I had requested he come up to the gate because there again was a no trespassing sign on the gate. He did not do so, so we waited 5 minutes, honked the horn. Nobody came forward, so we left again.
Did he message you that he was on the property?
He did, yes.
Did he say where he was at on the property?
He said he was in the barn behind the gate.
Okay, and even though the homeowner gave you permission, you didn't feel like you were able to go and talk to him in the barn?
No.
And why is that?
This home had trash on the outside of it. The gate was like, I truthfully don't even know how to open this gate. There was a no trespassing sign in the front of it, and there were 2 campers. So I was kind of unknown of what I was walking into, and it's not really able to be seen from the road either.
Okay. And did you have somebody else with you from the agency?
Yes, I had my supervisor, Kristen Smith, with me.
And have you been able to provide any help with transportation for Mr. Wright?
I offered gas cards to Mr. Wright.
And does he have a vehicle?
I believe he does, but I am unaware. It seems like it works and doesn't work.
Does he have a driver's license that you know of?
He does not.
So how would a gas card help him?
When we were at the property, we saw 2 people leaving in a truck from his premises. So I would imagine that he could ask the people he's staying with for a ride and we could provide them a gas card.
Okay. Would the agency be able to provide him with like Dial-A-Ride or Uber or anything like that?
I could look into it. I am not for certain on a direct answer right now, but I could definitely look into it.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you very much.
Mr. McFarland?
Your answer regarding my client's compliance and the other guardianships, did you ask my client what she was doing to comply with the other guardianships?
No, I have not.
How do you get your information as to what she's doing or not?
through the placement.
Do you intend to ask my client what she's doing to comply with those?
I can if you would enjoy me to, but I don't. It's not this case, so it's not necessarily my information to get into,
Well, you did inquire about it though, right?
in a way.
Okay. Do you understand that my client has to wait 6 months, which will expire in October, for her to have full-time employment where she's located? Do you understand that?
Yes,
So very soon, she probably will have full-time employment. Do you understand that she's renting a vehicle to come down here for these court hearings? It's a 3-hour drive. Do you understand? So even though she doesn't have a vehicle, she's able to secure transportation, correct?
correct.
She's also volunteered to drive all the way down to Adrian for visits also, correct?
Volunteered in a way, yes. It was court ordered at the last hearing that KW didn't have to go back up to Saginaw anymore. So that is what made the change.
Right. So is she getting visits down here then?
Yes,
What substances did father test positive for?
I'm not sure off my mind, but I can look into the court report if you would like me to.
Didn't recall, so I thought maybe he did. Okay.
Amphetamine, methamphetamine, and THC.
I
I just looked at it.
thank you. Didn't know, remember the THC. Thank you. My client has a dog at father's place. If she was just there to feed her dog, is there an issue with that?
The issue is speaking with Matthew, right? Is the issue that I have.
She indicates she had a conversation with him?
She initially denied it and then indicated it, yes.
What is the issue if she's not planning concurrently with him? I mean, they have a child together. What's wrong with her talking if they're planning separately?
Yeah, so my concerns are that Matthew has flat out asked me if they are able to plan together. She had reported herself that she will love him till the ends of the earth. Matthew has reported that the thing that I testified to earlier, that she is going to do all of the work, he can sit back and relax, and then they're going to get back together at the end. So those are my concerns when it relates to Mr. Wright.
Well, that's what father's reported, correct?
Correct.
My client's not reported that she's going to get back to him, correct?
Correct.
She's not reported that she's going to do all the work and let him just live off of her, correct?
Correct. She could send dog food through like the mail service or food delivery, things of that nature.
Do you own a pet?
Do I own a pet? No.
Sure. My understanding that the program that she's waiting for up in the Saginaw area, as you indicated, that's not her fault. It seems to be between the counties. That delay is not based upon her, correct?
Are you talking about the parenting education?
Yes.
Correct. It's not her fault.
So what progress is she not making that would want you to advocate for something other than reunification after she's come so far?
Like I said previously, it's the stagnicity, if that's a word. I believe, in my opinion, that yes, she has obtained sobriety, but she is not necessarily putting KW on the first priority list. I think her sobriety is top priority, which is good. But I would like to see the shift to KW being the priority, like asking for more parenting time. She has yet to do so. Calling the doctor's office after a doctor's appointment, things of that nature is what I would like to see.
Is she been invited to participate actively at these appointments through the internet?
Well, in a way. So she was invited to the appointment, but it was scheduled early in the morning and we weren't able to reschedule it. So she was offered to call the doctor's office to get an update from the front desk. And I called them for The day after the visit, I called them, and then I called them a week later to see if she ever called for the update, and they reported that she didn't. The only reason she was not invited via Zoom or telephone is because the doctor's office is behind the old hospital. So there's like zero cell phone service. So we wouldn't be able to do a Zoom at the doctor's office because there's no service.
I call from back there all the time at the nursing home. What cell phone service are you unable to use?
I have Verizon. I don't know what the placement has.
Have we attempted a FaceTime or anything with my client live? Have you tried that?
Like during a doctor's appointment?
Exactly.
No,
Can you do that?
we can attempt to. Do you have a backup plan if the call does not go through? Would you like us to just ask her to call the front desk like we did last time?
I was gonna say, they probably have a landline that she can listen in
Okay,
and just put it on speakerphone, correct?
I don't know.
Oh, you can ask, right?
I can ask, yes.
Nothing further.
Okay, Ms. Underwood, any questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony. May you return to your seat.
Thank you.
Any other witnesses, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Berger?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
My client would like to testify.
Okay, come on up to our witness stand.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
How would you like me to address you today?
Fine.
You understand the father of your child, Mr. Wright, is using controlled substances and you are currently going through a controlled substance program, right?
Mhm.
Is that
Correct.
yes? You understand the agency doesn't want you to have any contact with him, correct?
Correct.
Is there somebody else that can keep your dog other than Mr. Wright?
At this point, no. Where he does really well with people and children, he does not do well with other animals. Everybody that I know has dogs. That's why I haven't taken him back yet, is because where I was currently living, they have a small dog, and it would just not be a good situation to have both of the dogs in the same location.
You're looking into a new apartment, correct?
I'm working on, should be moving in this week.
They allow pets.
They do. I checked with that before I signed the lease.
Plan to bring your dog up there.
It is.
After that, is there any reason for you to have any contact with Mr. Wright whatsoever, knowing the position of the agency?
No.
You want to have contact with him down the road, knowing that he's still testing.
If he could test clean and, get himself together, we do have 3 children together. So I mean, in communication in regards to that, yes, but not in any form if it was going to challenge or jeopardize my sobriety or, my life with my kids.
That seems to be the concern of the agency. You understand that, correct?
Yes, and I have told Ms. Moore and her supervisor, the 2 different conversations that we've had, that the plan is that when I was in a spot where I could regain possession of my dog, that was the plan, and then that was it, and that was all.
Tell me about employment. It sounds as though you can be employed full-time through the Odyssey House. They allow you after 6 months, which will expire in October. Is that correct?
No, not the Odyssey House. I'm employed through Home Depot.
Okay.
Yeah, once you stay a part-time associate for at least the first 6 months, and then you have the ability to move to what they call a pro associate, which would be a full-time.
I see. So it's a Home Depot's requirement, not the Odyssey House.
Yes, yeah,
Is that what you intend to do?
yes. I'm currently in the process of cross-training over through multiple departments. I'm in the process of getting and gaining my heavy equipment certifications so that I'll be able to do loading. And then once I can cross-train across all the departments and get all those certifications and I hit my 6 months, I am then have the ability to graduate to a pro associate and have full-time.
Now, you're renting vehicles to come down here, correct?
Correct, every week.
3-hour drive,
Mhm.
6-hour round trip. Is that yes?
Yes, sorry.
6-hour round trip?
Yep.
Coming down here for visits, correct?
Yes.
How frequently can you do that?
Right now I'm doing okay with being able to, support myself up there on top of the rental once a week.
I understand the agency would like you to be down to visit your daughter in person more frequently. You understand that?
Yes.
How do you think that can be accomplished?
I mean, I'm more than willing to make the attempt, but the problem is having to take the whole entire day out is a whole entire day that I can't work, which is then less money brought in, which is then less money towards the cars to get down here.
I guess the question is, if you're only working 15 hours a week, that's another over 15 hours that you could be driving perhaps to come down here. So just working out the hours, just if you can just kind of walk us through what you mean by that.
As of right now, I am averaging between 15 and 20 hours every week. And then we have something called the exchange program, which you can pick up additional shifts as they become available, which there's pretty much multiple shifts every day of the week that are available that people release or they just didn't have coverage for. So to ensure that I was going to be able to save up enough money quickly, because I know one of the court's big things last time was seeing me in an independent living situation and being able to maintain that and everything. So picking up extra shifts as often as humanly possible to be able to save the money up. I did leave recovery housing, moved in with a friend, and then since our last hearing, and since then have now saved the money to be able to get into my own individual independent housing. So that's really what I've been trying to focus on. I know that, Miss Moore keeps bringing up that she doesn't feel like Kenzie is my first priority, but every step that I'm doing right now is for the end goal of having a sober, safe, and self-sufficient environment to bring my daughter back home to.
Let me ask you this, when you start working full-time,
Mhm.
how are you going to have visits at that distance?
I will have to take on, night shifts, and maybe if I can take on like split shifts, things like that, work double shifts on weekends, things like that. If I could, it's like this whole time, if I could leave Adrian with her or leave the CPS office with her actually, and take her back up there and start gaining in parenting time where I'd have her for, a couple of days. I have looked into 2 different daycares that were recommended to me by a couple of people in the program and a couple of people that I work with, that they have told me that, as of right now, yes, they do have availability, but that can always change. So, I have looked into daycares and things up there. I have,
You afford that on part-time or not?
probably not 100% on part-time where I sit right now. But I have also looked into resources in the area and within the Saginaw community for like childcare help and things like that.
You told me there was something that the worker said that the supervisor contradicted or something. What was that? About transportation? 4 hours down here, you indicated to me that the supervisor indicated something different than what the worker was saying. You recall that? You wanted to speak, address that?
Oh, the whole coming up with the plan, and like mapping out what that would look like. When she did come up to do the home visit, the person I'm living with and we both did ask, what does this look like, for her being able to come up here and start, doing visitations in the home and everything. And what we were told was, I will have to speak with my supervisor and, there's going to have to be a lot of planning that goes into that. It was never actually specified that I was the one that was going to be, that needed to do all of that planning and everything. So the steps I had been taking was, okay, if they were going to increase my parenting time, but I still can't leave Adrian with her because of the distance driving her up there and back. I had been looking into different places and ideas and things around this area to be able to take her since I wasn't able to leave town with her.
Would you be able to rent a hotel down here and spend like, overnight with her here that way?
I did bring that up during the family team meeting and the supervisor said that really isn't what they're looking for me to
That's not what
do.
I'm asking. I'm asking, would you be able to rent a hotel so she could spend the night with you down here?
If that's what it comes down to, I'll figure it out.
Do you have any family or friends down here who would also, you could spend the night and they would be there to supervise if that? was
No,
the
I no longer speak to any members of my family outside of my mother and her placement. And I don't speak to any of the people I used to associate with because everybody uses and
Fair enough. Have we covered your concerns today?
I guess there is one other one that I was curious about.
Go ahead.
Apparently, so it was unclear to me, well, when we left the last hearing, I kind of thought that we were moving into like unsupervised visitation type situation, because you had asked about that. You'd also brought up like the ability to, take her and do things with her. There's been multiple times where I have, texted and asked, can I take her to the park? Can we do something? And I have been told no repetitively. And then at this last family team meeting, the supervisor had informed me that this entire time, if I had come with a car seat, that I could have taken her and gone and done stuff with her while I was here. Except any time that I had been at the office for my visitations, in order to even take her outside into the parking lot or walk around the block with her, they required me to give them my car keys. And so when I brought that up to the supervisor, I said, well, what do you mean? I have to give them my car keys even to take her outside of the building. And she was like, no, that wasn't supposed to be happening like that. So this entire time, I had been kind of led to believe that, I couldn't leave the office, couldn't do anything with her, had to hand my keys over if I even just wanted to take her outside for a little bit.
Fair
And
enough.
apparently that's not how it was supposed to have been.
Okay.
So I don't, where they're viewing everything as stagnant since the last hearing. I mean, I've started my job. I've moved from recovery housing into independent housing. I've now obtained my own, like nothing on
You do
my
not
end
support a
has been,
guardianship, correct?
correct. Yeah,
Mhm.
nothing on my end has been stagnant.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Questions, Ms. Thomas?
Thank you. Ms. Lemley, one of the things the court mentioned at the last hearing too was having information as to whether you've made any progress related to domestic violence and understanding child abuse and neglect. Do you have any updates on that?
When I was in a higher level of care in the program, I completed, I believe, 3 separate domestic violence classes. There was parenting classes required that I attended every week for nearly 6 months. Since the last hearing, I've had a change in therapist in the program because they had an employee leave, so I had a change of therapist. But before my previous one left, during our individuals, she would print out different like child neglect or effects that domestic violence have on children, like different packets and things. And we would sit and read through them and go over them and look into them. I don't have any of the packets currently with me. They're back in Saginaw, but since the last hearing we did, especially because I believe it was the Judge Fowler had brought up doing some type of like workbook, some things. And I wasn't really pointed in a direction by the agency and what to do with that. So that's why my individual therapist and we just started like printing different things off of the internet and going through them and going over them. And
Okay. And did you happen to provide a copy to your attorney or to Ms. Moore at all?
of the different packets.
Yeah, or anything that you've done.
I don't know exactly what has all been included in, because I know my therapist was sending updates or sending like progress notes or something to the agency. I'm not sure exactly what all she included in there or not. I know there's been a couple different instances where I've sat and spoke with my recovery coach, Ms. Martin, about, the different items and things. She might be able to testify a little bit further as to what was sent to the agency and what wasn't, because she can see that type of thing. Well, I guess I don't want to speak for her. She may be able to see that type of information.
Okay, all right. And if the agency didn't have a concern about your relationship with Mr. Wright, would you have a concern about being in a relationship with him?
I guess I don't understand the question.
So regardless of the agency's position, do you have a concern about being in a relationship with Mr. Wright?
No. We're not in a relationship, so there isn't like concern with being in a relationship if we're not in a relationship. I guess I don't understand the question.
Okay. Talking to him or re-engaging in a relationship?
We're not in a relationship.
If the agency did not have a position on that, would you have a problem or would you be interested in re-engaging in a relationship with him?
What I told him is that, yes, I do have love and care for you. I always will. You are the father of my children. But at this point, the toxicity level of the relationship is not worth the relationship. There's too much over the years. There's too much broken. Our lives are on two totally different paths. I'm sober, staying sober, and getting my life together to make something of myself for my children. And if that's not the path that somebody is on, that relationship isn't part of my world.
Okay. And as relates to your children, the other two are in the Jackson area, correct?
Hillsdale
area. Have you considered moving to be closer to all of your children?
The question keeps getting presented to me, when are you coming back? Why haven't you moved back? And believe me, it has been a lot of thought. There has been a lot of conversation with not only all of my therapists, but my recovery coach as well. At some point, in a perfect world, it would be my ideal that absolutely, yes, I would have my youngest daughter back. We would probably move to Hillsdale County and live as close as humanly possible to my other two children that I could, get. But at this point in my sobriety, and yes, even though I am now celebrating almost a year and a month clean, coming back to the people, places, and things that I have nothing but use and, that type of environment it's not a safe environment for my sobriety. So I know my moving back has been a big problem, but at this point, moving back and putting myself right back into the same environment that I was in, I'm not going to stay clean. It's not going to happen. And it would make every bit of all of this completely pointless and a waste of time. So I'm currently staying in the place where I have a supportive recovery community. I have a supportive recovery family. I have so many resources when it comes to recovery. Looking into the idea of moving back here and looking into the recovery resources that are back in this area, they're nearly non-existent compared to where I currently reside. I have established myself within the Peer 360 program. I'm very, very active in my recovery and in my recovery community, and coming back here would cut me off from a lot of those resources. It would cut me off from a lot of my supports, things like that, where I don't have that here. Maybe down the road when I have a lot more clean time and a lot more stability and strength in my sobriety, yeah, it's absolutely an option and an idea. But at this point, it would be much more detrimental to my sobriety and continuing to build everything that I'm building to just walk away from all of it and come back to the same people, places, and things that led into this whole entire situation to begin with.
Okay. My original question was just getting closer. And so are you stating that any place closer would not have anything like Ann Arbor, I think would cut your drive time in half? Have you discussed anything to get closer and where you can maintain employment with a Home Depot? You could coordinate care with sobriety, other sobriety resources, sober living, anything like that?
I did have a conversation with my boss about the possibility of transferring stores, and the only stores that I would be able to transfer to would be Coldwater, Jackson, or Toledo. Jackson, again, not somewhere that I need to be trying to build a life with sobriety. Toledo would be, you know, a whole nother state, and we're already having issues across counties. I don't even want to think about what the issues would be crossing state lines at that point. And then Coldwater, I don't think it might be a little bit closer of a distance from here, but at the same time, I have no recovery support. I have no recovery community. I don't have anything out there.
Okay, all right. I was just curious if that was something you had explored yet. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Berger, any questions?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Ms. Lumley, I think at the last hearing, you had indicated that it had taken you so long to secure employment because you had to get some issues with maybe some dental work done or something like that. Has that been handled?
Yes, I went through quite a bit of extensive dental work where I had to have 14 teeth surgically removed that I ended up doing like all at one time, and then healing from that, things like that, on top of when you first get into recovery housing, you are on restrictions for 30 days. And then after that 30 days, I was filling out, multiple applications weekly, going on interviews. And again, Miss Martin can, attest to that. She sat with me in her office in tears many a days, like, I don't know what to do. I'm never going to get a job. Like, I'm going on these interviews. These aren't working. At one point.
I might just interrupt. If I could just briefly go to the bathroom. I don't mind if my client continues testifying. It'll take me 2 minutes. The court doesn't mind.
I don't mind. Do you mind?
Oh, no.
Thank you for asking.
At that point, my recovery coach and I, we sat down, we went over my resume and kind of revamped and redid my whole entire resume. I began switching up from just submitting applications through Indeed to actually going to physical companies, like hiring websites and applying that way. And then it didn't take me very long to acquire employment after we kind of revamped my resume and all of that.
Okay. Are you also working a side job?
There is somebody within my recovery community that does construction that when, I have been, maybe short a little bit on, or not quite as comfortable as I'd like to be when it came to money for renting the car and the trip down here for the day and back and stuff, that I could call and say, hey, do you need some help at one of your properties? That I could go and put a few hours in and get paid there.
Okay. How often are you doing that?
He received a call back from the union and has gone back into his union work. So that's not as often anymore. I haven't worked with him in a couple weeks now.
Okay. And you indicated that you're due to your work schedule that you don't think you could make more than once a week visitation work for you?
I could go in and talk to my HR person and make it work.
But you're only working 2 or 3 days a week, correct?
No, right now I'm working 4 or 5 days a week. I'll work like a 4-hour shift this day, a 5-hour shift this day, maybe an 8-hour shift this day. It's broken up into a lot of little shifts over multiple days.
Okay. And do you know who your daughter's doctor is?
If I can pronounce the name right, Dr. Edenuga, is that how you pronounce it?
Okay. And did you ever follow up and contact the doctor's office about your child's visits?
No.
Okay. And you say you are going to start with a new apartment shortly. Have you already signed the lease?
I'm sorry?
Have you already signed your lease?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions.
Any redirect?
No.
Any recross from our attorneys, Ms. Thomas, Ms. Berger?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat. Any other witnesses, Mr. McFarland?
Well, thank you.
Ms. Underwood?
No, Your Honor.
Comments in closing, beginning with Ms. Thomas, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this juncture, the agency is asking for concurrent goal to include either adoption or guardianship. And I think that the highlight that Miss Moore was bringing up is things are sort of at a standstill and progressing towards developing a relationship between the child and the parents at this time. And that does not take away from Miss Lemley's progress. I think it's undeniable that she's maintained her sobriety for quite some time now. And she's making extraordinary efforts to come down from the Saginaw area. But all of those things really have also, unfortunately, bifurcated her life, and the child's life. And she has her supports in Saginaw, and the child's life and family are in a different area. And to be able to merge that together, there's a lot of planning that needs to get done, and it might not be impossible. But I think that mom still needs to show some independence in being able to achieve those goals there. As relates to Mr. Wright, unfortunately, I think we're in the same holding pattern of not really getting much done. The positive drug screen was also very concerning. I don't know that we've had any truthfulness from him on that point, or even concern about addressing that. But we are just asking the court for that goal change and guidance on how to move forward, and scheduling another 90-day review. Thank you.
Comments, Ms. Berger?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, obviously, my client is asking for another review period, but for the goal to remain the same. He did make some positive changes in moving to Adrian and securing housing that is with a family friend that hopefully can be supportive of him. He is asking for help continually. He needs some help with transportation. That's a big challenge for him. And without that, he's not able to complete a lot of the services the agency is requesting. So we would request another review period. We would ask that the goal change not take place just quite yet. And in the event that it does, we would ask for a dual goal so he can still continue to work towards those goals in that case plan. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
Your Honor, my client has made substantial progress on her case service plan. I know recovery comes first. I have explained to her the time requirements of this case. She was receptive when I've explained to her that Ann Arbor does employ a lot of recovering addicts. They have similar programs. I realize that she's comfortable with her counseling and everything else up there, but 6 hours on the road, we perhaps better utilize 6 hours of visitation down here. And I think she's receptive and would accept any help, at least helping her locate similar physicians. I know she just signed a lease, but I think she'd be willing to look at Ann Arbor, which sounds like the agency would like her to do that. So she is making a lot of positive steps. So I think she's checking off her boxes. And I think the distance and the time are the two constraints. I think that it will help that she can bridge that gap also. Thank you.
Ms. Underwood?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a case where the minor child has been in care for a year now. And while on the part of Miss Lumley, she has made some progress, and I'm very glad that she's maintained sobriety. I'm still not seeing a ton of progress that would support reunification. I'm seeing progress that would support sobriety, but yet it's all very far away from where this child is located. We still don't have really any secure housing. There's been some movement in places, but it sounds like maybe she's getting a 1-bedroom apartment. But again, like the department's indicated, it's nowhere near her family and this case. I believe Miss Thomas, her point was not that she should relocate to Ann Arbor, but that maybe she should be considering options other than Saginaw that could provide her with the sobriety and sober living and stability that she needs, but yet be closer to her children and be able to make more visitation possible. Again, this child deserves stability and permanency. And I think it would be appropriate in this case to at least have a dual goal. With respect to Mr. Wright, he's done nothing. Miss Moore, it's clear from the report that Miss Moore has made several attempts to try to engage with Mr. Wright. He continues to dodge meeting with her. She's provided 3 different locations to meet with him throughout this entire case. And every time there's an excuse. Again, she's gone out to the location he said he was at 2 times and then not shown up. And then has gone as far as to blame Miss Wright or Miss Moore for him catching another charge in district court and being in warrant status, which is just ridiculous in my opinion. Mr. Wright needs to take some accountability in this case, and he's done none of that. I would, like I said, commend Miss Lemley on her sobriety. I think that's admirable, and I hope that she continues to do that. I think the dual goal is appropriate in this case so that we can continue to plan for permanency, but also give the parties the opportunity to make some significant progress before it's too late. So I would ask that the court continue to have this child remain in the current placement as it's least restrictive, most appropriate, and in her best interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's review and permanency planning hearing. Obviously, it was a very extensive hearing. I was able to hear a lot about the progress that's being made, the referrals, all the programming that's happening, and also the concerns from both parents as well as the department's perspective. Certainly, everyone is in compliance with their legal obligations in this case. Our attorneys, guardian ad litem, and caseworker are all doing an excellent job. I appreciate again, this is our second representative from Catholic Charities this morning, all of the referrals and the attention to detail that's coming into these court record reports. So that's great. I concur with with our guardian ad litem, Ms. Underwood, that as it relates to Mr. Wright, he's not showing a lot of progress in his areas. And of course, I'll tell you the truth, I'm grateful for his frankness. As it might not have ended well, the conversation between Ms. Moore and Mr. Wright, as it relates to the discussion that he had with her about whether or not it would be an option to plan together, we'll say, with the mother of his child. But at least he's frank and honest about what he wants and where he thinks that his life might be taking him in the next few months. And of course, it gives rise to the concerns that Ms. Lemley had to answer to during cross-examination. And it seems like, frankly, she's a little on the fence about it. She'll have to accept the fact that Mr. Wright may care for her, but certainly has not demonstrated any the true ability at this point to tackle a lot of the concerns that she continues to herself understand are a risk associated with them planning together. There would be a lot of work involved in an arrangement like that. Ms. Lemley is certainly determined to maintain her sobriety and the supports that she has. And I respect that. And I respect the progress that she's made in that context. Frankly, the family appears to be stabilizing under the current arrangement. The child is doing well in the placement. She's meeting her developmental milestones. Ms. Lemley is meeting her milestones and goals as she increases her momentum in successfully obtaining housing and employment and sustained sobriety. I don't have a whole lot of information about the programming that's happening around parenting time, individual counseling, or some of the other pieces, like the domestic violence piece, and obviously the substance use support is working, which is great. But some of those other pieces, I think, if Ms. Macy Moore is looking for notes, that could be something that could be interesting to explore. I also have some concerns about the reaction the child is having to parenting time, because considering that the situation is stabilizing, this is even though the child is very young, this is a situation where I would consider a juvenile guardianship, recognizing Ms. Lemley's progress and stability, and the fact that this child would be able to recognize a successfully sober parent could be a really sustaining piece for this child in the future. My concerns are the age of the child. She's very young. She's been removed from her parents basically since she was 6 months old. And this is the home that she's known for the past year. So that lends itself strongly towards adoption in this case. And I appreciate that Ms. Lemon's primary goal is to be a sober parent and to be there for her child as much as she's able to, but her priorities are certainly in that area, as I think they should be. So I would look for Ms. Moore to look for an arrangement that allows this to lend itself to permanency, whether that's juvenile guardianship or adoption. I will continue to recognize reunification in addition to adoption and juvenile guardianship, and leave it to Ms. Moore to start that conversation. Please begin working with the placement on licensing if you haven't already. Because again, recognizing that the parents and the child have stabilized under the current conditions, and that Ms. Lemley is going to continue to work and increase her work schedule and be successful in that area. That continues to limit her ability to be able to create that strong bond and support that her daughter needs. I'll look for Ms. Moore to look also at the visitation. Some of Mr. McFarland's suggestions seem useful, to come down for a weekend or a day or two, or arrange longer visits. I would encourage Ms. Lumley to really make an effort to be part of doctor's appointments and FaceTime, even if it's just for a few minutes, her child, because that's an important piece when I consider juvenile guardianship, is the bond between the parent and the child, and whether or not that bond is a resiliency factor for the child. So, Ms. Moore, you may want to consider consulting a visitation specialist to look at whether or not the child's discontent after visits has to do with Ms. Lemley, or what that is, or if there's a way that that could be worked through to allow her to develop a better relationship with her daughter. But that's going to be a pivotal piece, Ms. Lemley, is your relationship with your daughter, and whether or not that's a support for her as we look at a permanency goal for your child moving forward. So I'll modify the goal to that extent for the reasons that I've expressed, considering especially the fact that the child has been removed for as long as she has, and the case is coming to a place where statutorily the court has to make some decisions on what's going to be happening for this little girl in the near and far future, frankly. So I want to say thank you to everyone who showed up today to support this child and this family, and all of our caseworkers and attorneys. The child will remain in placement. That's the safest and least restrictive under the circumstances. And we'll have our next review on September 30th at 10 o'clock in the morning. And will continue to be a permanency planning hearing. We'll certainly look at these issues again.
My client, she was just barely able to make it here today in the morning. She can't get a rental car before 8.
Would
It's 3
1:30
hours.
be?
That'd be
easier?
much better. Thank you.
All right, so that'll give us a little more time as well. So we'll schedule that for 1:30 p.m. on September 30th. Thank you, Ms. Berger, for pinch hitting for Mr. Brooks today. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Unless there's any other issues or questions, that's all for this morning. Good luck, everyone, and we'll see you in September.
Thank you.